Adulthood 19 to 30, middle age 30 to 60, later
Mm.
maturity 60 and over.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and what I see as is given the following in the chapter, the three stages. That is ages 0 to 6 is that
Yeah.
learning to walk, and then learning to crawl, learning to take solid food, learning to talk, learning to control the elimination of body waste, learning sex differences and sexual modesty, getting ready to read, forming concepts and learning language to describe social and physical reality. Right, ages 6 to 12, there is, can you read this?
Yeah, ma'am. Learning physical skills necessary for the ordinary games. Learning to get along with the age mates. Building wholesome attitudes toward oneself as growing organism. Learning about appropriate, ma'am,
Masculine,
can
yeah,
masculine or
masculine or feminine social role,
yeah, develop
developing, yeah,
concepts necessary for everyday living. Developing concepts necessary for everyday living. Developing
conscience,
ma'am, con
conscience,
conscience, morality, and scale of values. Achieving personal independence.
yeah, developing the attitude towards social groups and institution. From the ages of 12 to 18, read on.
Achieving the new, more mature relationship with age mates of both sexes. Achieving the masculine, feminine social role. Accepting one physique and using body effectively. Achieving emotional independence from parents and other adults. Preparing for the marriage and family life. Accu-
Acquiring,
Acquiring a set of values and the ethical system as guide to behavior. Describing and achieving social responsible behavior.
very good. Okay, so you see, as step by step, as they are progressing, they are learning so much, right? Right from the time of crawling to talking, right? And then all the things that is appropriate for them, like as masculine, like masculinity develops for boys, femininity develops for girls, right? They behave like everybody else, they conform to social standards, right? Girls start
Yeah.
feeling shy, start talking softly, boys becomes very vigorous, right? All these kind of things are happen. They were
Yes.
achieving personal, and so long they were depending on parents. Now they are in school, they are developing friendships, right? So their
Yeah.
schoolmates are also, they'll start imitating their behaviors. They want to be part of that group, they want to conform to that standards, right? And as they move on from 12 to 18, they are moving towards becoming independent. They have an identity of their own, right? They
Yes.
prepare for marriage, there is a certain set of ethical values, and they desire achieving socially responsible
Yeah.
behavior. Okay. So if you get a question on what is developmental task according to Havigas, you should be able to write these kind of aspects what is mentioned here. Then
Yeah,
we move
ma'am.
on to the physical development of childhood. Right. What happens in the physical development of childhood? Right. You can, according to the evolutionary theories, the lengthy period of physical maturity, in fact, provides you the added time to acquire skills and knowledge which are required for complex social world. Right. So physical
Yes.
development encompasses a different set of tasks and abilities. Physical growth illustrates many of the principles of development. Right. So principles of physical growth, four basic principles of physical and motor development, right? Hierarchical integration, independence of the system, Kaipalov cordial, right? Principle refers to the fact that the development proceeds from the head downwards. The child gains control of the head first, then arms, then legs, then
Yeah.
infants develop control from the head and the face movement. First 2 months after birth are able to lift themselves by using their arm, and the next infants start gaining leg control, may be able to crawl or walk. See, when you observe the babies, you see how step by step the physical development happens. The baby
Yes.
is, it starts smiling, then starts shaking itself, its body, then it starts turning this side and that side, then
Yeah.
just gently turns. బోర్ల పడారు అంటారు కదా కొన్ని వాళ్ళు
Yeah.
టెంకాయ టెంకాయ కూడా కొడతారు. Yeah, so
Yeah.
like that physical development. అలా మళ్ళీ మెల్లమెల్లగా they'll be able to hold something, stand up,
Mhm.
right? And then they are able to walk, then they are able to move, then they are able to run, right? So all these kind of developmental happens at a different stages of life, right? So
Yeah.
here what is mentioned is from the head to the toe. It begins from the head and it moves on to the motor developmental school in the direction of the development, and outer parts of the body, the arms, the hands, the legs, all one by one. Okay, then the principle of hierarchical integration is simply the skills developed separately And later, the simple skills integrate with more complex one, right? See, when they're able to move their hands, slowly they'll
Yeah.
start to use their hands to touch, to pinch, to grasp. So like that, they'll master the art of control and integrate the movements. That means they don't have to think automatically. Somebody comes, to grab something from the hand, immediately they'll take it back because that coordination will develop, that integration happen. From principle of independent system shows the different body system grows at different stage. This implies that the growth in one system does not depend on the growth of the other. For example, the growth of the body size, nervous system, sexual characteristics are all independent of each other. Okay, physical growth.
Yeah.
In physical growth, what happens? It does not grow as a whole in all directions at once. The growth changes can be divided into four types, which is given here. One is the neural, the second is the lymphaeid, the third is the genital, and the fourth is the genital. This involves, okay, the neural involves the nervous system. The nervous system grows rapidly before birth. From first to 3 years of birth, nearly 80% of the growth occurs, right? And it tapers off. At birth, the brain weight is 1 by 8 of the body weight. At 10 years, 1 of the 18th, and 1 of the 40th. Like you see how gradually it starts increasing. The skeleton system includes the bone and the support and the shape of the body. The growth and the skeletal system at rapid birth. The development and the visual, such as the respiratory and vascular organs, happens at the same rate. Genital growth reoccurs markedly after pubescence. Pubescence means puberty. Like suddenly you see the boys shooting up, tall girls putting on weight. Physical growth can be seen in dimension of body proportion, height, and weight. We can see how this 7 to 8 years girl suddenly, they grow up tall, their hair becomes long, right? Their face becomes broad or oval or whatever it may be. Okay, so change in the body proportion, we can all be very obvious, which can be seen. Like the head and the trunk disproportionately large, extremity, all this happen, changes in the height, right? Suddenly you will find the 11-year boy is taller than the girl. And suddenly this girl looks like, very big akka. She was so small and suddenly she shooted up. Okay, so
Yeah.
changes in the body weight. So some may become thin and tall, some may become flat and tall. They put on heavy weight. Okay, so during this period, the baby teeth and the permanent teeth all will come. The age of 9 months, children in general develop the teeth around 6 years of age, one to permanent teeth. So you see, even the way how the teeth are placed, how the teeth are set, right? All these kind of things happen. Physiological functions, the processes takes place in the body, which includes sleeping, eating, elimination. All this will come to a kind of a routine thing. Alongside with physical development, the child physiological process also matures as set patterns. During infancy, there is a shift from the daytime sleeping in the nighttime sleeping. Further in childhood, the duration of sleep is dependent on the level of the kind of activity the child engages in. Nonetheless, there is a decrease of an hour in the average sleep time. Okay, so when they are babies, they take long time they will be sleeping. They can sleep for even 20 hours. But as they keep going on slowly, the sleep also decreases. Once they start going to school, it may increase, it will come up to 10 hours or something. And then slowly, as they move to high school and stuff like that will come to reduce to 8 to 9 hours because they have to start early to school. The school buses will come to pick up. Okay, so the sleep also gets, change as per the thing. The sleeping patterns will change and the growth depends. They'll mature, maturation happens, which becomes a major role for all this. These are all related to what development? This is all related to physiological function. Yeah,
Physiological.
physical development of childhood. When you are talking about physical development of childhood, all these aspects come in. Next is the
Yeah.
social development. Social development refers to what? It is all about how they are willing to socialize with the friends, with the peers, how they are able to build relationships, right? And how they are making friends. Oh, okay, friendship becomes very important. What the friend says is very important. Sometimes they won't listen to parents also. What the friend says only is right. Some parents will use the influence of the friends to tell them something,
Yeah.
and all this kind of this thing can happen. So very soon they are recognized. So here you can see that stages of social development they are given again in the early childhood, that is 6 to 6 years, where social development is happening very slowly, very gradually as the child keeps interacting, using some words to communicate, learning new words, making sentences in the preschools. And then as the child starts playing with the other children, the child start to work as a team in the play, right? If they're playing cricket, somebody is throwing the ball, somebody is batting. They get angry, they articulate, they use words, they fight, all these kind of things in their early childhood. Then the
Yes.
third is the first kind of social behavior, like helping occurs. Okay, the dominant forms of social behavior. Okay, so not only they will develop a cooperation and helpful behaviors, but sometimes they can also pick up negative stuff like aggression, anger from the peers. They look at how their friends are getting angry, how they're shouting, how they're throwing. So if they get into those company, those kind of characters will start becoming dominant. Okay, so during the preschool year, the emergence of social dominance hierarchies, which refers to ranking the individual in terms of dominance in the group. So you see, when the school children they form a small group, in that there'll be one gang leader, there'll be one leader who will be very dominant. He will say, and everybody will listen. All of them will just obey the leader's part, whether they are in playing, whether they are having anything. So even in friendship, there'll be one person who will influence everybody else. Okay, so milestone in social development is 2 years. There's an understanding of rules of social exchange in children. First evidence of pro-social behavior found in children. Children operate according to a desire psychology. Then 3 years, children begin to engage cooperatively in play and operate according to a believed desire. The dominance hierarchies are observed in children. 4 years, children are most commonly observed in associative play. 6 years, children spend more time with peers and peer groups. Increase in size. The peer attention take place in the wider range of setting. 7 to 9 years, the goals of friendship is gaining peer acceptance. By the time they are 12 years, friendships are centered on intimacy and self-disclosure. That means they start talking about their personal stuff, what is happening at home, whether they are upset, whether mother scolded, daddy scolded, or something happened serious in the family. They start sharing, opening up their hearts. Okay. By the time
Yes.
they become more organized around cliques. Okay. Then comes the personality development. Okay. So personality includes a stable psychological characteristic that define each uh, human being as unique. Both children and adults have personality traits, right? Which are temperament, and the moods, all these kind of things will be seen. A combination of psychosocial, parental, biological influences are likely responsible for ultimate determination of human traits and state. Family relationships are critical, physical, mental, and social health of growing preschooler. Many aspects of the family parenting techniques, discipline, number and birth order of the siblings, families' finances, family circumstances, families' health, contribute to the young children's psychosocial development. Preschoolers may learn as much more from their siblings as from their parents. The preschool years are associated with major development to younger children's socialization. No longer totally dependent on their parents, preschoolers begin the long road to becoming adept in functioning on their own in the world. During early childhood, the children gain some sense of being separate and independent from their parents. So here we use the Eric Erickson's stages of development, where autonomy or self-direction, right, in the ages of 1 to 3, initiative versus enterprise, right, the primary development task of middle and the late childhood to attain industry or feeling of social competence. Competition, athletics, daredevil activities, numerous adjustment trying to make with friends mark the development of the stage. Successfully of developing industry helps a child build self-esteem or evaluating the attitude towards self, which in turn builds the self-confidence necessary to form the lasting, effective social relationships. Okay. Now you see they are given here in our books, Eric Erikson, Psychosocial Development, which you have already seen in 8 stages, right? Before when we are learning about the um, different perspectives of the psychologists, Eric Erickson's 8 stages, we have already learned. The same thing is now given here. They divided the psychosocial development into 8 distinct stages, the first 4 giving from an infancy to adolescence. And those first 4 steps are trust to mistrust. Okay, because this is coming under childhood. So this first 4 is used here. Okay. So primary
Yeah.
caregivers are responsible for seeing the needs of young babies are met lovingly consistently so that they establish a feeling that the baby feels the world is a safe place. The baby is able to trust. If the baby is given proper basic necessities and protections, the baby feels the world is a welcoming place. Then another aspect that happens is autonomy versus shame and doubt. Parents and caregivers encourage children to celebrate their emerge of independence, right? If the parents appreciate the children doing things, they become autonomous, they become independent. If they are constantly being judged, constantly being put down, what will happen? They develop shame, they develop guilt, they feel bad that they are not able to, yeah, mm,
Yeah.
do things. All these kind of things will happen. Then initiative versus guilt. Initiative is characterized by exploratory because they are young, they want to explore things, they want to try out new things. But if parents put too much of control, if they just don't say go there, don't go here, that is not a safe place. Come back by this thing, don't play with that person. If you don't eat, some boogeyman will come and catch you. All this they'll tell you, no? They'll frighten
Yes.
the children. So what happens? The child develops those kind of fears and anxieties, and they think, really, if I don't eat, something is going to go wrong. If I go out in the dark, something bad may happen. So they get frightened, right? And they also
Yes.
start feeling guilty because they are not able to do things in an
Yes.
independent manner. The last fourth one is the industry versus inferiority. This is in the age group of 6 to 11 years. Through social interaction, children begin to develop a sense of pride of their accomplishment and abilities. Children who are encouraged and commended by parents and teachers develop feelings of competence and belief in their skills. Those who receive little or no encouragement from parents, teachers, or peers doubt their ability to be successful. Then we come to the emotional development. Okay. So not
Yes.
only that their personality is getting developed, but emotionally also they are, being able to experience the pleasant and unpleasant experiences. They are able to articulate, talk about those experiences. So this emotional development is influenced by many factors, right? The genetic inheritance, the conditions of the environment in which they are born. Right? If they are born in a family where the girls are not, where the mother doesn't speak, only the father speak. If the girl is there, she think, oh, this is the way a girl has to be there. And if the father is very dominant, the boys will think, oh, if I have to be a man, I have to be like my father. Okay. So all
Yes.
this kind of emotions, if emotions are not allowed to be expressed in the family, the child will have problem in expressing the emotions. Right?
Yes.
In certain families, they don't express the emotion. They will not
Yes.
say very easily, I love you, or give a hug or a kiss, right? Once they
Yes.
keep growing up. Yeah, they feel it is not culturally, so it is also closely related to the culture. Okay. So emotions, but here are important as an important determinant and consequence of interaction with others. The emotions can be caused by observing, recognizing what is happening in others. Responses that occur because of exposure to someone else. Emotional state is known as vicarious emotional responding. During early childhood, the children tend to act, think, and ways that focus on their own needs and desire. They are likely to respond to another emotional distress in ways they themselves find comforting. So, whatever they see, whatever they observe, whatever they learn, right? If it is okay for them to express their emotions freely, openly, they'll do the same things with others. But if they are not able to do it because if they don't have that exposure, or if they are finding difficult because of whatever the family background, the child projects his or her needs onto his mother. The child develops a capacity to take the perspective from others. They increasingly become aware of other people's feeling until later childhood. The children's empathy, sympathy responses are limited to the feelings of familiar persons in the family situations. Okay, so examples are given here. We can read that. Okay,
Yes.
so as
Yes.
cognitive development become more advanced and young children become increasingly unaware of their own needs and emotion, the children develop a more complex understanding of the cases and consequences. Then
Yes.
we go to the moral development. Okay. What is
Yeah.
moral development? The way of individual reason about morality. The emotion associated with morality is actions or behavior demonstrated, right, in socialization. Morality is the level of agreement or disagreement with the system of moral rules or standards of right and wrong. Jean Paget and Lawrence Kohlberg offered explanations. Right, when we studied the perspectives, Kohlberg was one. Lawrence Kohlberg's moral development was one of the things we learned. So
Yes.
well known, his theory is moral development, popularized. Okay, and he, according to Kohlberg, cognitive development capacity determines the evolution of his or her reasoning. His theory of moral development is a continuous process that occurs throughout the lifespan. Achievement of each stage depends on how much the child grasps the previous age. He found that a person takes idea of morality changes as the person matures. Like so, as the person matures, grows up now, the morality aspects also keeps changing. Based on analysis of the interviews, right, confronted, they developed the theory of moral development. Moral dilemma were presented to these participants and they were interviewed to determine the reasoning behind their judgment of each scenario. The following is one example of a presented dilemma presented, right? So here
Yes.
they are given us an example. In Europe, a woman was near death from a special kind of cancer. There was one drug the doctors might save her. It was former radium, and that drug is in the same town had recently discovered. The drug was expensive to make, but the druggist was charging 10 times more when the drug cost him to make. He paid $200 for one radium and charged 2,000 for a small dose of drug. The sick woman's household hence went to everyone he knew to borrow the money, but he could only get $1,000, which is half of what is the cost. He told the druggist that his wife was dying and asked him to sell it as a cheaper or let him pay later. But the druggist said no. I discovered the drug and I'm going to make money from it. So I hence got desperate and broke into this man's store, steal the drug for his wife. Should the husband have done that? That is a question we need to ask in the moral development. The man must now decide whether or not to steal the drug to save his wife, whether to obey the rules and laws of society or violate them to respond to the needs of his wife. What should the man do and why? Okay, so here is the moral dilemma. He wants to steal the drugs because his wife is dying of cancer and is not able to afford it. So, can
Yeah.
robbing be justified? Is a moral question. Okay, so
Yeah.
stealing versus saving life. Judgment: should the husband have stolen? Justification: why do you think he should not have stolen? So Kohlberg based his stages analysis on the judgment. There would be two stages: yes, stealing, and no to stealing. Kohlberg based his analysis on people's justification. People have different stages of moral development, could give the same judgment, but justify it with different level of justifications. So he's given the levels and the stages of moral reasoning. The level one. What is the level one? Pre-conventional morality. That is
Mhm.
the it is
Early child.
yeah, to avoid punishment and gain reward. I will do what I'm supposed to do in order to avoid punishment is the characteristics of this level, and emphasizes one more on the physical need rather than the people and the standard. That means he wants to rob to save the life of his wife, if you compare it to the example.
Yeah.
Level 2 is conventional morality, late child. It is based on the chief notion of I will do what I'm supposed to do as things work out better when everyone follows the rule. The child identifies with his parents and conforms to what they regard as right and wrong. The child has motives to conform, not the notions of ethical standards. So again, that he has to think whether this is ethically right or ethically wrong, whether it can be done or not. The level 3 is the post-conventional morality adolescent. It is characterized as self-accepted moral principle. I will do or won't do. What am I supposed to do? Because I think it's controlled by ethical code, that is relatively independence of one's approval or castigation. Moral conflict is resolved in terms of broad ethical principle, and violating this principle result in self-condemnation and guilt. Okay, so you see the progression level: people attend to themselves. Level 2, people attend to others and what others think of, and level 3, attend to society standards and the relation to them of their own. Now, there are hazards. What are the hazards? The important physical hazards of worry include mortality, illness, accident, unactiveness, and obesity. Young children are highly susceptible to all kinds of illness. Respiratory illness is common. Most children experience cuts, infection, burns, broken bones, etc. All right. And then the importance of psychological hazards on social content, speech, failure of learning, social adjustment due to lack of guidance, too much empathic or amusements, and too little to active play, deterioration in family relationships, major emotional adults, or the dominance of unpleasant emotion. The moral hazards include too much of emphasis on punishment for misbehavior and too little emphasis on reward for good behavior. This leads to unfavorable attitude towards authority. Okay, so emerging issues in this childhood: implementing and evaluating multidisciplinary interventions that address overall development of the child by fostering knowledgeable and nurturing families, parents, caregivers, creating supportive and safe environment at home. Okay, so with
Yeah.
this we come off to the hazards. Okay, so now you just go through the summary. The summary will be able to give you all this a brief understanding about the childhood,
Yeah.
and then you check the answers, questions, model actions are there, and then there is glossary. And yeah, I think this much is enough. Even if you don't, if you are very much interested in psychology, maybe you can think about further reading.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if you want to, yeah. So this is important. Okay. So with
Yeah.
this, I complete the block two. Okay. So anything you want to tell, Shabana? I appreciate you for attending the session regularly. Yeah, I wish
Thank
many more students also
you. Thank
access.
you for the classes, ma'am.
Uh, that's what I'm out of town, so I just took time out little for a while so that I can complete this block two. Then I can get back to my routine. Hmm?
Yeah, ma'am.
Any questions are there? Not there. If you want, you can stay and read up. So since the time given is till 1 o'clock, you can continue
Yeah.
to read. But
Yes, ma'am.
if you permit me, um, I can exit. Or if you have any questions, you can take my number, right? And you can message me, right?
Yeah,
Take
ma'am.
down, yeah,
Yeah,
eight
ma'am.
nine, yeah, eight
Eight.
nine
Yeah, ma'am.
78
7, 8. Yeah, ma'am.
191
191
578.
578. Yeah, ma'am.
Yeah, Dr. Angela.
Yeah, ma'am.
Okay, if there's so go through this whole childhood thing. Okay, you can sit in the class only if you want to go through. And once the time is up, then you can leave. And if there is anything that you want to ask, I will meet you again on 31st. I'll be back then. And then
Yes,
we can move on to the adolescence and at the same time address also your
yes,
queries. Okay.
yes,
So
yes,
I
ma'am.
shall take leave now and you can remain till 1. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Bye. God bless
Thank
you.
you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. Bye.